Hey everyone, Angie here with Overwintering Direct, and today we are preparing ourselves for frost and the winter season ahead. We've got some things to do around the garden, some annuals to pull, so let's get to it. As many of you know, we base our planting seasons around your frost dates. So between your first frost date in the spring and then your last frost date in the fall or winter, depending on where you live. So how do you know when your first frost is going to hit? Well, it all depends on your zone. Your first frost, depending on what zone you're in, is typically sometime between, we'll say like September and December. Really, there's kind of a big gap. So know your zone. You can Google it. You can go on our website. We have blogs and articles that talk about your zone and finding out which one you're in. That'll give you a really good idea of when you should expect your first frost. So the first thing that we're going to do to prepare for winter is to take care of any shrubs or perennials that we're going to overwinter in containers and pots. It's becoming really popular to plant up shrubs and perennials in containers, which is really cool and exciting. But when you go to overwinter them, it can be a little scary. You're always kind of taking a gamble overwintering shrubs and perennials, just because, you know, you never really know what the winter season's going to bring. It could bring some big storms or really cold temperatures for long periods of time. But a good rule of thumb is to overwinter perennials and shrubs that are 2 zones lower than your zone. So we are in zone 6. I would feel comfortable overwintering any shrubs or perennials that are hardy in zone 4. The reason that you want to do that is because when these plants are in containers, the soil is going to get a lot colder and a lot warmer than it would if it was in the ground, just because there's a lot less of it, right? So when you have those really cold periods, or even at night in the winter it gets really cold, then the soil in your containers is also going to get really cold. And then in the day when it's warm out and it's really sunny, it's gonna thaw. So you need to have hardy plants that are gonna be able to make it through those freeze and thaw cycles. For those that are 2 zones lower, they'll be fine being outside. You can huddle them close to your house just to keep them protected, but it shouldn't be as big of a deal as those other ones that you wanna keep in your garage. Keep them in sun. As with anything you overwinter, make sure the soil stays nice and moist. You don't want their feet or roots to get soggy, but you also don't want them to be dried out for long periods of time. You can always plan to winter them or check them or water them or check them every 3 weeks or so. That should be good to keep them happy and dormant. Another thing you want to do when you're overwintering shrubs and perennials is make sure that they are in containers that can withstand the cold and the weather temperatures. Clay containers like terracotta or porcelain containers, those are really susceptible to breaking throughout the winter season. So that can be a little scary to keep your plants in there. You don't want them to get damaged. You can always use our wonderful aqua pots. Those are really hardy containers that'll be able to withstand the winter season, and also make sure that your soil stays nice and moist throughout the winter season. You probably won't have to check them at all. You'll know that they're protected in those aqua pots. So the next thing that we're going to do is pull all of our annuals. The temperatures are going to continue to get colder. The ground is going to get harder. It's just going to be harder to pull them the longer that we wait. And plus, I want to plant some things for fall. I want to plant some fall bulbs. So I'm going to take out my annuals. A good rule of thumb for those, if you, as long as they look good and they don't have any disease, feel free to compost them. If they seem to have some sort of disease on them, just throw them away. You don't want them to get mixed in with anything, and you definitely don't want to keep them in your garden beds. All right, another question that we get a lot about fall cleanup and preparing for frost is what to prune, what to cut back, and the answer is not much. You can really keep all of your perennials and shrubs the way that they are throughout the winter season. It's really not going to harm them or do anything, and we actually recommend pruning a lot of our plants in the spring. If you have any questions on a specific plant that you have, you can go to our website. You can type in the plant name, and on the page it'll tell you exactly when we recommend to prune and cut the specific plant. So we're not going to do any cutting or pruning of perennials, so we're just going to move on to the next thing. All right, once we have all of our annuals dug up and our beds are a lot cleaner, then we have a lot more room to plant new perennials and shrubs. Fall is a great time to plant new shrubs and perennials in your yard. You have really reliable rainfall, you have short, bright days. The conditions are just really good for the roots to kind of settle into their new home and be ready to flourish in the spring and summer ahead. A good rule of thumb is to plant 6 weeks before your ground freezes. That of course depends on your zone, but you can kind of think of it as mid-November. Mid-November is a good average for when the ground starts to freeze. That's definitely how it is for us in zone 6. We're kind of here in late October, so they're not going to have a full 6 weeks, but we recommend getting them into the ground rather than overwintering them. They're still going to be able to settle in for the winter and go dormant, and that's the most important part. Just make sure you water them in nicely when you first plant them, and they should be good for the winter ahead. I'm also going to plant some bulbs for the spring. I have some tulips and daffodils that I'm going to plant. Again, you kind of want to get those in 6 weeks before your ground freezes. We're kind of pushing it a little bit, but they're going to be just fine. You can plant tulips and spring bulbs very close together, and make sure you have some really early spring interest, which will bring a lot of color right after the winter season. And the last thing that we're going to do today to prepare for winter is to mulch. You want to mulch any new perennials or shrubs that you just planted, or any delicate perennials that you've noticed get a little bit more winter damage than the others. And the reason that you want to mulch around them is because you want to protect them by keeping the soil temperatures as consistent as possible. Usually during the winter, you have really cold spells where the ground is going to freeze, and then you have warmer spells where the ground is going to soften. And because these are new plants or they're delicate plants, their roots are a lot more shallow. So because their roots are shallower, they're more susceptible to these fluctuating temperatures in the soil. And so you don't want your dormant plants to start waking up thinking that the winter season is done as the temperatures get warmer and then get blasted with cold, which tends to happen in February, March. So the mulch is going to keep the soil temperature consistent around the roots of your new perennials and shrubs, and it's going to protect them. So we're just gonna put a nice little layer of mulch around them, and then we're gonna be done. And there you have it. We are ready to go for winter. So if you guys need any more tips or advice, or you have questions about anything, you can comment below. You can go to our website, www.provenwintersdirect.com. You can chat with us right on the website. You can send us an email or call us. We would be happy to help you prepare for the winter season ahead. Until next time, everyone, have a great fall, have a great winter, and we'll see you soon.